Hey, this is Dave Blair coming at you from DaveBlairMusic.com, and today we're going to be looking at Maxon Overdrive pedal, Overdrive Pro OD-820. Now, if you're familiar with pedals at all, you're probably familiar with Maxon, and you're familiar with the 808s and the TS9s. Little green pedal. It's one of the most well-known overdrive pedals. What they did a couple of years back is come up with this vintage line, and it's a little more boutique-y. And one of the major differences is similar circuitry from the TS9. I think it's the same family. I think that's why they made it the same green. And what they did, though, one of the main differences, I think, in this is, although it's a 9-volt battery, 9-volt input, they're doing the voltage doubling that you see on other pedals. I think Klon does it, and there's a lot of boutique overdrive pedals are now doing that overdrive, the voltage doubling, which gives you a lot more headroom. That makes it less, it gives you more dynamics, less compression, just more open sound in general, ostensibly. And I think that is the case. It's obvious when you do this. I'm also going to be doing a separate a demo or separate shootout between this and the TS9, just so you can get a feel for what the difference is, and is definitely different. So let's stop talking and check this baby out. One other thing to note on the 820 is that when the drive is all the way counterclockwise, it actually takes the drive circuit out somehow, and those technical terms are not accurate probably, but basically what that means is that you could actually use it as a clean boost. You could still use the tone to make it brighter or warmer, and the volume, so it could be a clean boost that's very transparent. So let's test that out first. I'm going to start out with a clean signal. First, let me tell you what I'm running through. I'm running through a Two-Rock Emerald Pro through a Bogner cabinet with a classic 80 12-inch speaker, using an SM57 microphone about 4 inches right off the cone, right about down center, running into an A-Design Pacifica preamp and into an Apogee 800 converter. So that's my signal chain. The reverb on the amp is just the smidge in there, just to give it a little something. And otherwise, it's there's nothing else I'm putting on the signal, so you could actually hear what the pedal sounds like. I'm using a Les Paul standard gold top stock pickup, and then this is a Thurland James made this pickup for me. So if you like the sound of this pickup in the neck position, just go onto my Facebook and find Thurland James and ask him to make one for you. And he makes guitars and pickups and anything you need. So let's listen to this clean sound. Off, on, off, on, off, off, on. So it really is transparent. It's almost unnoticeable if you have that drive off, and then you could also, but you'd still use the tone, so you could have it give you a volume boost and give you, let's say, set it to give it a volume boost. Now the volume is a little under, let's say 1 o'clock, and the tone is about 1 o'clock. So my goal would be for this, let's say we're taking a, give it kind of a clean boost. Off, on, so it does that quite well. It does what they say it does. Now let's take that drive, and I'm still on a clean channel on the amplifier. Let's just do a test at the drive, with the drive at 9 o'clock, and everything else pretty much up the middle. So we'll do a clean. So off, on. Let's take it up to 12 o'clock. Let's take it up to 3 o'clock. Remember, this is going on a strictly clean channel. What we're going to do in a minute is go to the slightly crunchy channel and boost that, which is what one of the places where I think it really shines. Just in general, my philosophy, and probably people may disagree with me, but I think for overdrive pedals and distortion pedals as well, if you're taking a clean channel, you could take a clean channel and get it, give it a little bump and make it a little more bluesy, go into Buddy Guy territory, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Billy Gibbons territory. I would never take a clean channel and Fender amp and even put the best of distortion pedals or overdrive pedals to try to get that into like hard rock, metal, Van Halen or more gain than that. It just always winds up sounding brittle to me. It doesn't have the bottom to it. I would take, you could try to fake it, but it is never the real deal. So I would use this on a clean channel to kind of take me into, more of a bluesy territory. Really aggressive and nice with that. And notice I'm also in the neck position. I really don't like clean channel with a bridge position. It just all sounds honky to me, on the lower strings, that kind of get away with it, but clean channel, I don't know, that to me sounds a little harsh. Just in general, not with this and nothing to do with this equipment, but in general, a bridge position on a clean channel, even with a distortion pedal, it can work, and it cuts through sometimes for certain things. I've heard Lenny Kravitz do it, and I've heard it done on some funk stuff. But that's a very specific circumstance. But in general, don't try to rock out on a clean channel in your bridge position. In general, when I'm rocking out anything crunchy, I'm almost always in bridge position. Let's just take this to full. Let's go all the way with the drive. Everything else is down the center, and see what how that sounds. So even at the fullest position, it doesn't really get fuzzed out. It doesn't get all saturated. It doesn't get all compressed. You still have some headroom, and I think I'm hearing that, that voltage doubling type of thing. Whereas other pedals, or in general, the sign of a good piece of equipment is when you could kind of put it to the extremes. Here I put it all the way at the lowest drive, all the way to the highest drive, and nothing was unusable. And there was it's not like, oh, here's a sweet spot and everything else is Actually, all the positions had a good sound that are quite useful. Now I'm going to switch to the gain up. So here's the gainy channel of the 2 Rock Emerald Pro. Now we're going to have some fun. So here's the level, just about 11 o'clock, and the drive about. And let's start the drive at 3 o'clock. That's only at 3 o'clock. Let's push it up to noon. So off. Really nice. It sounds like just a crank the Marshall kind of sound. Really even. Nothing is too bright. Nothing is too harsh, but it cuts through nice. It opens up on the top. It doesn't get compressed. It doesn't get nasally or weird. You know, sometimes certain pedals, including the TS9, has that mid-range thing that works, but can get harsh or can get just, you know, less even sounding. This is very even and natural, and it maintains openness, and it doesn't really over compress and get all fizzly or sizzly. Very natural sounding. Just sounds like you just tweaked the amp and cranked it. Let's try this at the 3 o'clock position. I'm gonna get a little crazy. So. It's off again. You can kind of get soft. It's not going to get totally soft because the gain is all pretty high. Let's take it up all the way, baby. This is cranked. But one thing that I noticed, it sounded like a cranked amp. A really nice sounding cranked amp. Open, gives a little fullness on the bottom, cuts through a little bit, but nothing is like unnatural. It's not weird mid-range frequencies just poking through, or extra distortion, or it just really even natural sounding. So it's like that same type of. Now that's the drive all the way up, and I still could kind of pull back a little bit and get soft. feeling all the notes. The drive is all the way up, on top of a distortion channel. It's got a ton of balls, got a ton of gain. It's not harsh on the high end. Let's see if we do some fast picking and get some articulation, and see if it really, I don't want it to fuzz out all the notes. I want it to hear all the notes separately. So if we do something like... I heard all the notes. So you can hear all the notes, and when it does sound flubby, that's just me making a mistake. But that's good, because I want to hear, certain pedals, they'll fuzz everything out, so it just sounds like a big blur, and you can't even hear the person's nuances, and you can't hear their mistakes, but you can't hear all the cool stuff they're doing either. So yeah, this is a winner. As far as pedals, overdrive pedals, I'd say it's probably the best I've tried. It's just really open, dynamic. Even at the farthest drive settings, it gives you a ton of bite, ton of balls, but it still has a natural sound to it, very even sound. And it stacks well with other pedals because it has a natural even sound. If you have something that's you want to throw something that's a little more mid-rangey on, or has its own tonal characteristics, it will, from what I've tried, it blends well. Like I put Klon-like pedals on there who have very distinctive sound, and it just adds a little bit of mid-range bite to it. Whereas if you put, let's say, a Klon with a TS9 or two Klon type pedals, or it doesn't. They kind of accentuate too much in the mid range, and then it just sounds kind of weird. And I would say it doesn't really sound like a TS9 to me. I know it's in the TS9 family, but it's its own thing. I wouldn't compare this to a TS9. I wouldn't say it's simply a TS9 or 808 with more headroom. It's more even. It doesn't have that mid-range thing going on. It's less buzzy. I'll be doing a separate video that does a more specific comparison. But yeah, it's a completely different thing, and it's definitely on my pedal board. And it works really well for what I'm doing.